Good morning and thank you for having me today. It's such a pleasure to be with you here in London, speaking about such a fascinating topic. Now, before I go into it, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Irene and I'm the Managing Director of GROW Sustainability Consulting. GROW Maritime is a sub-brand of GROW, which was created to assist companies operating in the shipping and maritime sector to become resilient to future challenges and more effectively utilize resources and assets such as natural assets, human assets, and financial assets, and guide them throughout their journey to sustainable development. We live in a world where we're asked to face crisis after crisis and risk after risk. We have the catastrophic effects of climate change, like rising temperatures that cause our natural ecosystem to have huge imbalances, the destruction of our biodiversity, extreme weather phenomena such as floods and wildfires that we've seen in this video, risks that threaten our health such as the COVID-19 pandemic, geopolitical instabilities like the energy and food crisis that we're now faced with as a result of the conflict that is happening in Ukraine, inflation. So all of these pose a threat to businesses in every industry, with shipping, of course, being no exception. So today, businesses face an evolving landscape of ESG-related risks that can impact their profitability, their success, and even their survival. ESG-related risks are very unique in the way that they impact an organization, but also the way that the organization is dependent on natural resources. So each company has a different set of ESG risks depending on its business model, the internal and external environment that it's called to operate in, its product and services mix, its mission, vision, and core values. So there isn't a predetermined list of these risks, but if corporations wish to ensure their business continuity in this ever-changing world and challenging ecosystem, they have to start identifying the risks that arise from this crisis in order to get better prepared for them, build the survival mechanisms that will make them more resilient in the future. So ESG risks are now among the top risks recorded globally in terms of impact and likelihood, and that's why ESG rating systems have been developed to help investors to avoid these risks. For example, back in 2008, there was only one social risk, and that was pandemics, reported in the top 5 risks in terms of impact. And 10 years later, 4 out of the top 5 risks were environmental or social, including extreme weather events, water crisis, natural disasters, and failure to adapt to climate change by developing the appropriate mitigation measures. Now, usually, climate-related risks are divided into 2 different categories. We have physical and transition risks. Physical risks arise from climate change itself, and transition risks from the survival mechanisms that we develop. So physical risks include heat waves, floods, droughts, and all the catastrophes that we've seen before in the video. And then transition risks include inflation, high energy and food prices, so usually and basically all of the issues that we're faced with today. Now, many entities have what we call enterprise risk management structures and processes in place. In brief, it's called ERM. And leveraging these structures and processes can support organizations to identify, to assess, and to respond to ESG-related risks. Now, all entities have, as we said, impacts and dependencies on nature and society. So understanding where a business's most significant impacts and dependencies on the natural world and society lie allows for the inclusion of this information into operational and strategic decisions. And this can lead to a wide range of potential benefits for businesses, as well as the environment and society. Now, first of all, an entity's resilience will depend on its ability to anticipate and respond to a complex and interconnected array of risks that currently threaten its strategy and objectives. Sorry. Jasmine, I think I'm going to need your help again. Sorry about that. Yes, maybe. It's connected. Okay. Okay, can you go all the way down? Okay. So articulating ESG-related risks brings ESG issues into a company's mainstream processes. It also enables management to assess overall resource needs and helps to optimize resource allocation. By considering both positive and negative aspects of ESG-related risks, management can also identify ESG trends that can lead to new opportunities. An example would be veganism rising as a top trend. So an organization operating in the agriculture, food retail or F&B industry might decide to invest in vegan options and offerings, widening its portfolio. And finally, improving management's understanding of ESG-related risks can provide the transparency and the disclosure investors expect that eventually leads to increased investor support or achieving better financing terms because investors and financiers recognize the interrelation between financial and non-financial performance. Now, a great example of an ESG risk assessment in the marine supply chain industry is the one that we recently conducted for GenPro. Being a procurement company, GenPro recognizes that its biggest impact lies across its supply chain and is therefore taking a risk-based approach to sustainability by conducting an ESG risk analysis of its tier 1 suppliers. And that way it's not shying away from its responsibility, but it's taking an active role in aligning its values with its partners and suppliers by educating them on sustainability-related issues, but also helping them improve their ESG performance. And it's doing that through a well-structured and systematic supply chain due diligence program that considers ESG criteria. And you can read more about the methodology that we use to conduct this ESG risk analysis in the GenPro 2022 sustainability report that is available on their website. Now, the World Economic Forum updated its Davos Manifesto for the first time since 1973 to more clearly state that businesses have to be stewards of the environment, uphold human rights throughout their global supply chains, and pursue sustainable shareholder returns that don't sacrifice the future for the present. That is basically the very definition of sustainability, and that is why taking a risk-based approach to sustainability is a requirement of the European Sustainability Reporting Standards that instruct reporting organizations to report not just on their impact on the economy, the environment, and society, but also to identify any risks and opportunities that arise from changes that occur in the economy, the environment, and society. Now, it's proven all the more that organizations' greatest impact lies within their supply chain, and that true sustainability can only be achieved if multinational enterprises include their supply chains in their transition plans. Hidden risks can lie in supply chains as much as an organization's own operations. It can be much like this image here, like an iceberg. It can have tremendous impact on the organization itself and affect its enterprise value as much as it can impact the economy, the environment, and society. And that's why it's extremely important that an organization, especially ones with large supply chains, align their culture and values with their external partners and suppliers. And it's not enough that an organization demonstrates responsibility in its own operations, they will have to do that with their supply chains as well. Their partners and suppliers must do too. So apart from its own employees, the same principle should adhere to all of its partners and suppliers. Effective sustainability increasingly requires management up and down the supply chain because one part of the supply chain can impact another. Recognizing the importance of including supply chains in sustainability efforts, the European Union is imposing new due diligence rules to limit environmental and labor abuses in corporate supply chains in an effort to create an integrated, inclusive, and progressive approach on due diligence. So this new EU regulation, what we call the CSDDD, the Supply Chain Due Diligence Directive, puts the ultimate responsibility for due diligence on each individual company, while at the same time it's equipping victims of abuses and their representatives to hold companies accountable for their actions. This directive also establishes new duties for corporate directors. The core elements of these duties are identifying, preventing, mitigating, and accounting for negative human rights and environmental impacts in the company's own operations, their subsidiaries, and their value chains. And these duties include setting up and overseeing the implementation of the due diligence processes and integrating due diligence into the organization's corporate strategy. In addition, when fulfilling their duty to act in the best interest of the company, directors have to also take into account any human rights, climate change, and environmental consequences of their decisions. So all of this has led many multinational organizations to apply strict due diligence processes in order to mitigate ESG risks, placing pressure on suppliers to comply with a myriad of ESG criteria. And many suppliers see this as a challenge, and of course it is at first. There is no question about that. ESG assessment questionnaires that were once a couple of pages long are now becoming hundreds of pages, and it requires specialized knowledge and expertise and building the appropriate governance structures for their proper supervision, as well as to ensure accountability. But we should not fail to see the opportunity that these developments present, and that is the opportunity to improve our operations through these new requirements and also join a bigger cause to actually make a positive impact on the environment and society. So thank you for your time and attention, and I'm always at your disposal for any questions. Thank you.